WHOW's many platforms. You'll still hear all of our commodity analysts and weather professionals each afternoon, but at a brand new time. And you'll still hear the weekly wrap-up of the commodity markets right here on WHOW when Commodity Week airs Saturdays at 8:30 a.m. Remember the time change for the daily closing market report on WHOW at our new time, 5:06 p.m. weekdays.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show is streaming to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. We've got a host of friends in studio with us today. We're going to be talking about somewhat of a sensitive topic today, kids and domestic violence and sexual abuse. And we start today with Jill Maxey, who is the executive director of Willow Tree Missions. Jill, good morning to you. Good to see you.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Yeah, you guys can swing that mic back and forth. Andrea, is it Kocher?
It is
Kocher with Dove Inc. in Piatt County. Andrea, good to meet you this morning.
You as well. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And Deputy Lindsey Bross with the Piatt County Sheriff's Office, and she serves as the school resource officer in Piatt County. Good morning, Deputy Bross.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming out and talking with us today. Now, I want to start with just kind of introductions with everybody. Deputy Bross, let's start with you because folks here, school resource officer in Piatt County, obviously a number of districts in Piatt County. Tell us about your role and how you navigate those roles.
Let's see. This is my 5th school year, and I go to 4 different school districts. Pretty much, Monticello gets me twice a week. Cerro Gordo, D-Land, give me once a week, and it's never on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
It's always like interchanging, so the students never know, like, oh, she's always here on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much most time I go into the school, what they really want is the positive interaction between law enforcement and the students. The first time, my first interaction with the student, they told me, like, I hate police, and I've never met the student before. And I always wanted to say hi, like every day I would say hi to her anytime I see her, like, how are you doing? How are you doing? And then finally we got to this point where, she came out and saw me and said, hi, how are you doing? So that is the biggest thing that the school and law enforcement want. They want that positive interaction and also to keep them safe, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a great story of why your presence is very much needed. And, just to kind of, for, folks at home, we just got off the line with Mike Bennett and the Clinton Police Department. And we hear this a lot from those guys is, they'll be in the schools and there will be, kids, like you said, that their inclination is, I don't like police.
Yeah.
They've only seen or interacted with police in the worst of circumstances.
Yep.
And to have that positive interaction that police are just normal people, just like them.
Yep.
That's great stuff. Andrea, introduce yourself to us and your role with Dove Inc.
Sure. I'm the coordinator of the Piatt County office. We are located in Decatur. It's our main hub. Most people know about the Decatur office and all the services we offer there. We're really fortunate that we have outlying county offices as well to help our rural domestic violence victims. So we're in Shelby County, Moultrie County, DeWitt County, and then now I'm in Piatt County full-time also. I do a host of things. I do legal advocacy through orders of protection at the courthouse, individual counseling with victims, DCFS mandated domestic violence programming, and really anything else that anybody that's experienced domestic violence related issues would need assistance with.
Sure. Swing that mic over to Jill. And Jill, I know you've been on the program before, but reintroduce yourself and Willow Tree to our listeners.
Sure. I'm Jill Maxey, a new executive director for Willow Tree Missions. We are located in Monticello, Illinois. We are a Christian-based organization, and we own a resale shop that funds our services. We also help victims of domestic violence and those who are going through a crisis.
Very good. So I want to start with Andrea this morning. What is the difference? I guess explain domestic violence from a youth perspective and sexual assault from a youth perspective. What do those things look like?
Sure. So as far as from a youth perspective, as I assume that you're meaning as the victim.
Yes,
correct.
correct.
Like peer-to-peer,
Yes.
peer-to-peer dating violence, which is what we refer to it as. We call it teen dating violence. So it's pretty comparable to anything adult related. The biggest difference is an immaturity with the victim and the abuser.
How so?
literal maturity level of
Oh,
being
okay.
so much more inexperienced just in life and what they bring to the table, and not understanding the differences in like the intensity levels of their relationship that can be disguised as immature love and are actually more of an abusive in nature reality.
Okay. So what do those things look like?
So many things. The biggest thing is intensity. A relationship that starts out where you want to spend all of your time in a new relationship with this new person and this newfound infatuation that quickly becomes, or not so quickly, but usually quickly becomes, I can only spend time with that person and I can only be around that person, where the abuser then pretty quickly can take control of a relationship.
Yeah, for sure. What is that? So this kind of quickly jumps into a question I had. What is the difference between, say, adults, the domestic violence, sexual abuse in an adult relationship versus a teen relationship? Simply asking because, teens can't just run off and live with their abusers. So how does that happen? Where does that happen?
Sure. While teens can't, like you said, run off and live with them, what they can do is be exposed to them without a way out. They're constantly re-exposed to their abuser or whoever is having that control over them at school, in social media, through other friends, through peer pressure. There's just so many avenues where, while they're not stuck in the home, they can very much be stuck in the relationship with no escape.
Sure. Jill, did you want to add anything to this portion of the conversation?
Well, I just wanted to be sure that while there are a few differences, there are a lot of similarities between the two.
Sure.
And so when students approach us, or your teen approaches you as a parent, we need to be sure to believe what the student is telling us and to be supportive and to take them seriously as they're telling us about the situation, so that we can direct them in the best way to get some help.
Absolutely. Do you encounter this at Willow Tree? Young people, high school age kids coming in with these
I'm
situations?
sure we have, but in my short tenure there so far, I personally have not.
Yeah.
We have had some young adults who have come through, but they have been 18 years or older.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Officer Bross, do you see this much in the school systems?
A little bit. It comes a little differently to me, because usually what happens is, or at least what I usually see, is the victim doesn't come to law enforcement or anybody right away. They usually tell a friend first. And that friend, they kind of talk about it a little bit, and then they might decide, okay, we should definitely probably tell somebody about this because this isn't right. So they might go to an adult, like, yeah, you need to go to law enforcement. So like Andrea was saying, like, they're very immature and not usually realizing, like, this is a very serious situation that I'm in and I need help.
Sure. Andrea, I know you did a lot of research on the numbers in Piatt County. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so through the Illinois Youth Survey, we have new data that just came out from last school year, within the last 2 weeks. So it's super fresh data. I don't have the comparisons to what 2020 numbers look like to 2022 because I just didn't have time to get it ready. But what I do know is that our youth are experiencing, at the very least, being put down by their partners and being, as well as being physically abused by their partners. We have about 12% of 12th graders admit that they are being put down and or controlled by their partner. What we believe control means is that they potentially control who they're allowed to be friends with, what they're allowed to post on social media, where their extracurricular activities take them, things like that. We also know that 4% of 12th graders in Piatt County admit to being physically assaulted by their partner within the last year. All of this is at least one time within the last year. 15% of 10th graders say that they feel controlled by their partner, with 7% saying they've been physically assaulted. We don't ask the same questions to 8th graders because we don't want to expose them to information that isn't necessarily age appropriate for them. So we don't have solid data on that, but we have reason to believe it's happening there too.
Yeah, for sure. Again, our guest in studio this morning, Deputy Lindsey Bross with the Piatt County Sheriff's Office. She is the school resource officer for the various districts there. Andrea Kocher is with the Piatt County WHOW, and Jill Maxey, Executive Director of Willow Tree Missions in Piatt County as well. And I didn't realize the Illinois Youth Survey went to those depths. Like I talked to Tony Kirkman. I'm sure all of you are familiar with Tony. And largely when I talk to him, the focus is, of course, mental wellness and health and all those things. What else does the Illinois Youth Survey cover?
So it covers a variety of topics from absolutely mental health. It also covers safety within your home, the feeling of safety, bullying, peer groups. If you have adults in your corner, if you feel like there are people who care about you, domestic violence is covered, nutrition, body image. It is a wide variety of topics.
Well, and so much of what you mentioned, I venture a guess, kind of encompasses domestic violence. I mean, if you don't feel, great about your body image, maybe that impacts how you let a relationship kind of progress. I don't know if that's a fair thing to say. How about those things, Andrea?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. The correlation in data isn't available. However, what we see regularly is absolutely somebody who doesn't feel great about themselves is more likely to engage in a relationship of any type that makes them feel good in the moment.
Sure. Real quick before we go to break, let's start this. What does you mentioned a few of those things, Andrea? What does domestic violence, abuse in a teen dating relationship look like? You talked about the controlling who they talk to, those sorts of things. How about that? And it doesn't have to be you, Andrea. It could be Jill or whoever.
Sure, I can
go ahead, Jill.
chime in.
Sure.
So, as Andrea said, it can involve constantly putting someone down. Extreme jealousy or insecurity. Your abuser can have an explosive temper. They can try to isolate you from your family and friends and dictate who you can see and who you can hang out with. Andrea talked about that. It could be mood swings, and this is a little tougher to tell because teens just automatically have mood swings. But this is, rapid mood swings. Somebody who is always checking your cell phone and social media and email without permission, always looking at your phone. And of course, physical hurting, physical violence to somebody, possessiveness, and then telling someone what they can do or what they could wear or not wear, those kinds of things.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you what, ladies, let's take a time out. But if it's okay, I'd like for Jill and Andrea to tell us how folks can learn more about your agencies. Jill, how about you? How do folks learn more about Willow Tree Missions?
Sure. People can reach out to us by phone, 217-631-1018, or they can reach us online at WillowTreeMissions.org.
Very good. Let's take a time out here, guys. Come back with some more. Again, in studio with us, Deputy Lindsey Bross is with the Piatt County Sheriff's Office, the School Resource Officer, Andrea Kocher with Piatt County Dove, and Jill Maxey, Executive Director of Willow Tree Missions, our guests in studio. More to come on the morning show.
WHOW.
Warner Hospital and Health Services in Clinton is your local trusted source for compassionate care. CEO Paul Scourin here reminding you to find out how we provide care close to home by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
When it comes to fire and water restoration, ServPro of Piatt DeWitt counties is the leader in cleaning, restoration, and construction. Find out all the services they provide by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
ServPro of Piatt DeWitt counties is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the WHOW Clinton Maroon Player of the Game, announced at the end of every Maroon sports broadcast. Our WHOW announcing staff will select that night's WHOW ServPro of Piatt DeWitt counties Clinton Maroon Player of the Game, whose play will be highlighted in each WHOW Maroon postgame broadcast, and that player receives a certificate. Remember, ServPro of Piatt DeWitt counties, the leader in cleaning, restoration, and construction. Find out their services by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Tune into all of WHOW's platforms on AM, FM, and streamed at IllinoisFarmRadio.com for live coverage of the DeWitt 4-H Fair, featuring 4-H'ers from DeWitt, Piatt, and Macon counties, the Farmer City Junior Fair, featuring junior 4-H'ers from the area, and reports from the Illinois State Fair this summer. Our coverage this year is brought to you by our title sponsor, Apex Clean Energy, a leading developer of wind and solar projects to bring investment to local farming communities. Our coverage is also brought to you by WHW, your John Deere dealer in Macon and Monticello. Heartland Bank and Trust, with locations across Central Illinois. The Macon County Farm Bureau, where membership means value. Warner Hospital and Health Services in Clinton. Compassionate care close to home. Midstate Eye in Clinton, where they believe life is all about your vision. Nancy Metal in Mount Zion, your pole barn building specialists. And First State Bank, Hayworth Branch. Read all the results from judging at the DeWitt 4-H and Farmer City Junior Fairs by clicking the Fair Results icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show is streaming to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Again, our guests in studio today, Jill Maxey, Executive Director of Willow Tree Missions, Andrea Kocher with Dove Inc. in Piatt County, and Deputy Lindsey Bross with the Piatt County Sheriff's Office, the School Resource Officer in Piatt County. I want to take the conversation, ladies, to how much has social media changed the world of teen dating violence. Andrea, I think you threw that term out there for us earlier, teen dating violence. Jill, we'll start with you. How has, from your perspective, how has social media changed the way this dynamic it happens, I guess?
Well, so when you post information on social media, it's very easily could be misunderstood. Same with a text message. It can lead to a lot of jealousy or frustration or anger or feeling insecure about yourself if you read, how lovely somebody else's life is. So it can influence how you feel, in addition to your abuser having some power over you where they threaten to share information that you've sent them. And it's kind of out there forever.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to share. It's very easy to comment. And of course, people find it easier to comment in a negative way than maybe necessarily in a positive way. And so it can escalate very fast.
Yeah. Well, and, the other aspect of that is, you see kids are going places with their families, attractive people doing things that, kind of flaunt that a little bit. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
You put your best foot forward on social media.
Sure thing.
Even if it's not necessarily true.
Yes.
It appears that your life is quite glamorous.
Yes.
And it also makes it very easy for somebody to track where you are when you post, when you check in and do those kinds of things.
Sure. Andrea, add what you have for this.
So we know that social media is regularly used as a tool to maintain power control, both by the content that you post. While you control what you post, you don't control the people who like that, share that, have anything else to do with it. It can be a trigger to a person who suffers from an abuser who has extreme jealousy issues and constantly be another weapon that they use against you. There's also that, like Jill hit on, that it is an easy avenue for stalking and harassing, to follow someone's every move and everything that they do. Then ultimately also to use social media as a weapon to maintain control, in that the threat to post things linked to your page that others will see. Like we talked about where we hit on sexual content, or we will hit on sexual content, owning or having things in the abuser's toolkit that they then you say, if you don't do what I say, I will post this and tag everyone in it. Things like that. Ways to maintain power and control using social media as a threat.
Sure. Officer Bross, what do you see in terms of social media and kids in terms of, these abusive relationships?
Right. The biggest thing that I see is kind of, it's more of like sexting. That's usually when it's brought to our attention, because, again, these kids are younger than 18 and can't be doing that. I mean, I even did a presentation, and the next day somebody was still caught sexting.
No, my.
So even though we tell them, you can't do this, or, if you see this, or if this is happening, like the sextortion, sometimes they just don't realize like these kids are like breaking the law, or, you're a victim of this. And, they just don't realize what's going on. And then another thing is, like, these kids will just friend anybody and everybody. And I always ask them, like, well, do you know who that person is? No. but they wanted me to friend them, and so I did.
Right. It's so funny. Like, it's
Yeah.
the very opposite way I approach
Yeah.
social media. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know you. I'm not adding you,
Yeah.
you know, or like, and even people I know, I'm like, sometimes I don't want to follow them. So yeah. In our final minutes, Officer Bross, you mentioned that presentation you give. Do you mind giving us kind of an overview of what that's about, what your messages are, you know, maybe some of the bullet points you hit? How about that?
Right. So usually it's more like cyber safety. And it depends on also the age group. Like it's different between elementary school and high schooler. Like elementary school and even middle school, a lot of kids do gaming. And I told them,
And that's where that's a big platform
exactly.
for that stuff.
And I tell them, like, you know, don't go into chat rooms or anything like that. Just play the game. And if somebody wants to, you know, chat with you or go somewhere else, don't do that. You know, just stay with the people you already know. With high schoolers, it is really a lot about sexting. You know, it's like it's considered a form of child porn. And sometimes they just don't realize, like, even though you're the one sending it or you're the one receiving it, it's still considered child porn.
Yeah.
Now,
and they're like, that's an offense for even a
Yes.
juvenile, correct? Yeah.
Now they don't, unless depending on this, like every, it's always a little different. And even like our state attorneys said, you know, usually we'll do a report. We'll do kind of like a case by case basis because we do understand that, you know, kids still like to send out like sexting messages and stuff like that. And, you know, we don't want to throw the hammer at them, you know, so they might do a form of adjudication, which means sometimes they'll get in trouble, but we won't, you know, send them to jail or anything like that. You might have to do a form of community service or you have to go through counseling type of thing.
Sure. What else do you hit on in that messaging with them?
Another thing is really the biggest thing is stuff online doesn't go away, even though you think it might go away. It's always out there for people to see. And if you're a victim, you know, please, you know, come, you know, don't hesitate to come to us or anybody.
Sure.
I remember it wasn't exactly this presentation, but it was like a domestic violence. I was talking and I was watching two girls have a silent conversation between each other. And, you know, you just try to say, like, please go to somebody. It doesn't have to be law enforcement, but please, like, seek help somewhere.
Yeah. And we'll maybe talk about that when we come back, ladies. Let's take a time out here. We're going to come back with more with these ladies on domestic violence and teen dating violence. Again, our guests in studio, Deputy Lindsey Bross with the Piatt County Sheriff's Office, Andrea Kocher with WHOW, and Joe Maxey with Willow Tree Missions in Piatt County. The conversation continues after a look at local news and weather.
WHOW.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. The latest official reading on inflation, the Consumer Price Index, confirms what many Americans already knew, that prices continue to rise at a breakneck pace, although inflation did cool just a little bit last month, rising 8.5% year over year. That was better than a 9.1% increase in June. There's been no transparency from the Justice Department or the FBI regarding the raid on former President Trump's Florida home. And that has Republicans demanding answers from the FBI director as well as from Attorney General Merrick Garland. Republican Brad Finstad won the special election for Minnesota's 1st congressional district. His victory adds to the momentum the Republicans enjoy heading into the crucial midterm elections. On Wall Street right now, stocks sharply higher. SRN News.
Call my office now. I guarantee you, if we take you as a client, we will cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free information kit. 800-881-4242. 800-881-4242. 800-881-4242.
With SRN Sports, I'm Jim Bartow. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell says he feels the league needed to keep pushing for a year-long suspension for Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson because of his, quote, egregious and predatory behavior, end quote, toward women. Goodell was addressing the league's decision to appeal a 6-game suspension given to Watson by Sue Robinson, a former federal judge appointed by the NFL and NFL Players Association as an independent league disciplinary officer. Robinson found Watson violated the league's conduct policy after he was accused by 24 women of sexual assault or harassment while he played for Houston. And two-way Japanese star Shohei Ohtani.
From the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com, I'm Seth Lawrence with this local news update. The fall festival season is nearly upon us, and the National Weather Service indicates they are promoting services they can provide to organizers of these larger events. Unfortunately, weather can sometimes interrupt these gatherings. Ed Shimon at the National Weather Service in Lincoln explains they can coordinate with event organizers for plans of action in the event severe weather may strike.
Yeah, we're working on event-ready kind of setup for our decision support services, where we give tools to the state fair people or the county fair. Anybody that has an outdoor event, we're kind of giving them some extra tools on our websites and a plan of action when something starts approaching any of those events. How quickly do they need to respond? When does that need to occur? What are the triggers? And we work with that, but it's kind of an event-ready platform. We're trying to educate all of our local emergency management community and safety officials on the services that are available from the Weather Service and making sure that any outdoor events have a plan of action anytime something might threaten their location.
Shimon points organizers interested in these weather planning tools to visit weather.gov/Lincoln.
On our website, it's on the lower left side. We have a decision support. It says decision support. And you just click that link and it takes you to a solid weather briefing that can give you any kind of information you want for an event, really. There's a link right at the top of that decision support page that says Weather Liaison Briefing or Weather Watcher. And, it's got tools on how to plan your evacuation plan, and there's range rings that show up on a radar based on information you put into the system. It's really, really robust, and we're expanding it. There's always a way to improve it, and we're always looking at that and hoping for feedback as well.
Shimon notes with the county fair season starting to wrap up and the Illinois State Fair kicking off this week, they've worked with some of those organizers. He says the state fair will keep them busy over the next 10 days. The U.S. Senate has been busy recently passing legislation, and Democrat Dick Durbin says the recent Inflation Reduction Act will take major steps forward in fighting climate change. Durbin says the incentives for solar power, more efficient cooling and heating equipment, and rebates for electric cars will all save people money. Durbin recently installed solar panels on his home in Springfield. Get the latest in local news anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com.
This is staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki with your regional radio forecast. Bright sunshine expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 83. North winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Clear skies and quiet again. Tonight, lows level off around 60. Chance for isolated thunderstorms. Tomorrow, high temperatures reach up to 84. Partly cloudy skies. Hear weather twice an hour or online anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com. Currently, it's 70.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Ace now offers free assembly and free delivery, so it's never been easier to get a great grill for your family, like a Weber gas grill, a Traeger wood pellet grill, or a Big Green Egg charcoal grill. Only at your neighborhood Ace. Around the block. What you need in stock, with people who know their grills.
This is Brad from Gibson Ace Hardware in Clinton, Illinois. Stop in to see us, the helpful place at 114 North Madison Street, Clinton.
See participating store for details.
Getting your pet's needed medications is easy with Covenant Animal Clinic in Clinton.
Yes, very convenient, especially because I live in Bloomington. It always gets delivered right to your door.
I've used the online pharmacy. It's so easy.
Click the Covenant Animal Clinic icon at DeWittDailyNews.com to learn more.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police splatter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Life is uncertain. Stop in and see me, State Farm Agent Jason France, on the west side of the Clinton Square, or click our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com and see how our full lineup of State Farm insurance and financial services can help protect your family.
Local farm broadcaster Jared White covers the local agriculture news you need to know. Hear his reports by downloading the free WHOW mobile app.
Despite supply chain issues, owner Dave Jackson's great team of employees at your Clinton Save-A-Lot are working to keep their shelves stocked to save you up to 40% every day. Find out more by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Peterson Insurance Services in Clinton is a 2014 Pekin Insurance Illinois Agency of the Year. Jay Peterson here from Peterson Insurance. Find out about Pekin's auto, home, or life insurance by clicking on our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Whether you compete on the court, at the track, on the field, or in the fields, winning isn't just a goal. It's a mindset, shaped, honed, and defined throughout the season. That's why farmers pushing themselves to be the best plant DeKalb brand corn. Wherever you compete, winning has roots. Perform at your best with DeKalb. Always read and follow grain marketing and all other stewardship practices and pesticide label directions.
At Asgrow, farmers love to talk about the soybean bushels we helped them yield. But all we can talk about is the one bushel we didn't. You know, that one buried deep in the genetics we haven't extracted yet. We're going to find that bushel. Some might call our passion for one more bushel, quote, slightly embarrassing, or quote, totally cringy, Dad. They don't understand every bushel matters. We do. That's why Asgrow leads the way. Always read and follow green marketing and all other stewardship practices and pesticide label directions.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show is streaming to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. We're continuing our conversation in this segment of the morning show with Deputy Lindsey Bross of the Piatt County Sheriff's Office, Andrea Kocher with Dove in Piatt County, and Jill Maxey, Executive Director of Willow Tree Missions in Piatt County. And again, a bit of a sensitive topic this morning. We're talking teen dating violence. And Jill, I know that you really wanted to hammer home the point that students don't have to be pressured into situations that make them uncomfortable. Talk a little bit about this, how they avoid these situations, perhaps.
That's exactly right. We know it's difficult dating. It's difficult dating at all ages. And so we just want to encourage the young student, the young daughter, the young girl, the young boy, the young son out there, and just let you know it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to have some self-respect, and you are entitled to some rights in your relationship. You're entitled to the right of privacy, both online and offline. You don't have to share images of yourself, and you certainly don't need to share images of yourself in order to entice somebody to want to be in a relationship with you. If that's the case, then you need to look elsewhere. You have the right to feel safe and respected. You have the right to decide who you want to date or not date. You have the right to say no at any time, even if you've said yes before, and that applies to sex, to drugs, alcohol, and to whatever dating relationship you're in. Mm-hmm. You have the right to hang out with your friends and your family and do things you enjoy without your partner getting jealous and interfering or being controlling. Mm-hmm. You have the right to end a relationship that isn't right or healthy for you. Those are okay things. Mm-hmm. And then you have the right to live free from violence and abuse. It is not okay. And we just want to be real clear with young people that, and really anybody, it is not okay. Mm-hmm. And so you have rights, and you have the opportunity and the the authority to set those boundaries.
And I want to hit on something you said there, that you have the rights to say no to, even if you've said yes before, you have the rights to say no. But, maybe there's the young girl out there that says, yeah, but I've done it before, and now I feel pressured into it. Respond to that, ladies.
It's okay. You can change your mind.
Yeah. How about you, Andrea?
No, I completely agree. Yeah, just because something was something you were comfortable with at one time does not mean that it has to be the long term. Also, especially at this age, whenever we know brains aren't developed yet, making a mistake or doing something you're not comfortable with one time doesn't have to set the statute for what is your norm and what you're going to continue to do moving forward.
What if they feel like they can't say no? Something is going to happen if they say no. Maybe they'll be hurt physically or, they'll be rejected emotionally. How about that?
We know that to be true. We know that comes along, especially with a dating violence relationship. One piece of advice I have for parents in that situation is if your children know that you are constantly going to be monitoring their activities through social media, through their phone texting, things like that, you then ultimately empower your children to have an excuse not to engage. I can't do it because my parents will know about it. They check everything I do. So a way to avoid that from ever becoming a circumstance is to empower your children with an excuse.
Yeah.
My parents will know I can't.
I
can't. It takes the pressure off of them and puts it on parents, which we can handle as parents.
Oh, sure.
And there's monitoring software too.
Yeah.
To put on phone.
Yeah.
Like one of them is Bark. So there's just like different types of so you're not just going through the phone every single, because there's a lot of content and sometimes you miss things. Even the most basic, if you see one calculator and then there's another calculator, parents need to be a little suspicious, because really you should only have one calculator on your phone. And then there's apps to where if you have another calculator, you could put pictures in there. And to open it, you'll put in this equation on the calculator. So this will be a true looking calculator, and parent will go in there and, nothing happens. But then the under 17, under 18 will go in there and type in a code or, this equation, and it will pop up and you'll have all these images on there.
Interesting. And that's easy to overlook. If you see something suspicious as a parent, 2 calculators, maybe an app that you're not familiar with, how do you approach that?
What do you mean?
How do you approach? Yeah. How do you approach your child about that? Why do you have 2 calculators? Let me see what's in here.
You want to have these conversations. You just don't want to start all of a sudden now. You want to start early on having these conversations.
Build a foundation.
Yes, build a foundation. So, they know that they could come to you if there is an issue. Or if the parent sees something, that you hope it's you could go to them and have that conversation, because you don't want to not say, I don't trust you at all. You don't want to, have that, that just kind of shuts everything down.
Yeah.
So you want to start building at a young age.
Well, and to that end, when you give a child access to a phone, maybe set some boundaries with it right away instead of coming back later with those boundaries. Andrea, how about that? That seems like something that's hit a nerve with you.
Absolutely. The biggest thing there is that even if your child pays for their own phone, owns their own phone, they are your child. It's your responsibility. It is your job as their parent to continue to monitor and have ultimate control over everything that they have access to on that phone.
Very good. Officer Bross, I know you've mentioned in the break, you run into an interesting perspective. Jill talked a lot about, feeling pressured to be a part of a relationship or engage in things that you're not comfortable with. But you were telling us that it's kind of the reciprocal where, someone is trying to entice someone into a relationship. Speak to that a little bit.
Correct. So sometimes what happens, or what I've seen is somebody is interested in a relationship and they start sending images, usually through Snapchat, Instagram, something, usually it's through Snapchat. And it's more of a picture nude of themselves. And the other person gets it, usually just deletes it right away if they're not interested in that person. And usually what happens is that person doesn't want the other person to get in trouble. I'm not interested in that person. I don't want them to get in trouble. I just want them to usually stop, is what I'm usually told.
How do you advise that individual to proceed in a circumstance like that?
So usually what I tell them is, again, get a parent involved, law enforcement involved, because it still is breaking the law. It's sexting. It's still like you're sending an obscene message to somebody. It's again considered child porn if they're under 18. So it's still breaking the law. And even if you don't want them to get in trouble, it still needs to be documented, because we might just get that small Snapchat or snap in time, but it could be a part of a bigger issue down the road too.
Sure. Again, our guest in studio today, again, that's Deputy, I should say, Lindsey Bross with the Piatt County Sheriff's Office, Andrea Kocher with WHOW, and Jill Maxey with Willow Tree Missions in Piatt County, our guest in studio for today. Let's talk a little bit, ladies, about breaking free from a situation. And Jill, I'll start with you first. How to navigate this if a young person finds themselves in this situation? How should they proceed? What things should they be doing?
Well, so they may confide in a friend first, and then maybe that friend could confide in a teacher or a parent or another support system person. Teenagers, whether or not they know it, they have a large support group with school administrators and teachers, community members, church members in their congregation. Of course, we have law enforcement,
sports
resources,
teams,
sports teams, coaches. Yes. I mean, it's a long list. Or if they're in theater, I mean, there's a long list of people who care about these students.
Which to say that they may not feel that sometimes.
They may not feel that, but they do. And whether or not that student will agree, people do care about them and really do want the best for them. And so there are people who are trained to help them with these situations. And so if a friend sees something, it would be ideal if they could say something and tell an adult, somebody in their support circle, and try to work with that student then to get help. The best thing to do when somebody comes forward, a student or a teen who is in trouble, is to be sure that we give them the benefit of the doubt, right? We want to believe whatever it is that the student is telling us. The chances are, and I'm sure you have statistics about this, Andrea, they're not making this up. Their little minds aren't quite prepared to do that kind of thing yet. So believe what they have to say, be supportive, and understanding, and take them seriously. And then, like I said already, refer them to some help. We can work with them to create a safety plan on how to get out. If it requires an order of protection, we can work with through the legal system to do that. We can work with law enforcement so that they're aware. And I do want to caution not to engage the abuser yourself. If a schoolmate of yours has come to you to tell you what's going on, please don't encourage or engage with that abuser. Tell a parent, tell a school teacher, tell a law enforcement officer instead. And then parents, please don't engage with that abuser. Talk to the school, talk to law enforcement, and go about it in that way.
As angry as you might be.
As angry as you might be, because you will ultimately just end up making the situation worse for your child. And that's what we're trying to stop and to mitigate.
Sure. Anything else, Jill, along those lines you want to add?
No.
Yeah.
Not right now.
That's all right. Because that's perfect, because we need a break. So let's take our final time out here, ladies, and come back with some more. Again, we're talking with Deputy Lindsey Bross with the Piatt County Sheriff's Office, the School Resource Officer in Piatt County, Andrea Kocher with WHOW Inc. in Piatt County, and Jill Maxey, Executive Director of Willow Tree Missions in Piatt County, our guests in studio. One last time out, we wrap things up with them coming up on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
For Illinois Ag Better. Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn, beans, and wheat all trading higher. September corn 628.5 up 13. December corn up 10 1/4, 624 1/4. March corn up a dime, 631 1/2. August beans 1722 up 28 3/4. September beans up 29 1/4, 1541 1/2. November new crop up 18 3/4, 1447 1/2. September wheat $8 even, up 18 1/2. December wheat up 18 1/2, 817 3/4. August bean meal, $5.31.20, up 17.60. August bean oil up 66 cents, 70.35. The livestock market, August live cattle up 72 cents, 138.70. August feeders up 47 cents, 179.27. August lean hogs 122.20 unchanged. The energy market, October Brent crude oil down 241, 93.90. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
MR Systems Wireless is your local internet provider for Clinton and surrounding area. They have the products you want and the local service you deserve. MR Systems Wireless Internet service for home or business includes unlimited data, unlimited streaming, and unlimited calling. Plans start at just $48 a month and get a free Roku 4 lease with our media packages. Get the speed you need with MR Systems Wireless. Call them at 935-2100. That's 935-2100 for MR Systems Wireless.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks again for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence, and in studio with us again today, we've got Deputy Lindsey Bross with the Piatt County Sheriff's Office, Andrea Kocher with WHOW, and Jill Maxey, Executive Director of Willow Tree Missions in Piatt County. Jill, you gave us a great outline on what kids should do, how they should handle these circumstances, if they confide in a friend, how that friend should proceed, those sorts of things. Andrea, how does a teen break free from a teen dating violence situation? What can they do?
Sure. The biggest thing is for them to talk to someone. It doesn't have to be a professional per se. It's anyone that they feel comfortable talking to, whether it be a friend, a parent, a friend's parent, whoever it can be, so we can get teens the help that they need. We also know that teens specifically hold on to a lot of guilt about the relationship they've gotten themselves into. They don't want to be an embarrassment to their family. They don't want anyone to know. They feel incredibly isolated. So if they can talk to anyone that can help get them in the direction away from them. We also know that the person who's being abused knows that by just walking away from the relationship, it can trigger a violent outburst, or at least a more aggressive, emotionally
charged outburst.
Absolutely. So the person who's being abused knows the situation better than anyone else. So we encourage them to do what feels best to them by reaching out to somebody else.
Sure. Can you tell us a little bit about how WHOW can help teens in a teen dating violence situation?
Absolutely. We offer the same services for teens as we do for anybody else. We don't put an age at all on who a victim might be or who an abuser might be. We know that can start at any age. And we are here to help anyone who's suffering from domestic violence. It can also be a teen who's living in a teen or a child who's living in a household where it's not their relationship, but they're still victims of domestic violence. And we cover the whole broad spectrum of all ages.
Does the way you speak to the kids change versus how you speak to adults?
Absolutely. At any time, we always want to empower victims. Always. We want to give them a voice. We want their voice to be heard. But with teens, we also want to make sure that it doesn't go with them into adulthood. We want to try to stop the cycle, of course, with adults as well. But with teens, they're so moldable, and it's so possible to set them up for success later on and empower them with knowledge.
How about the abusers? Do you work with them? How about that?
We at WHOW do not work with abusers. There are organizations that do, but at WHOW, we are victim-centered only.
Okay, gotcha. Jill, I know you talked about a protection plan. What does that look like? What does that mean?
Well, it could involve several different things. And for teens, it's a little bit different than it is for adults because it depends on their living situation. Many teens still live at home with their parents as opposed to an adult. We'd want to make sure that the parents are aware, that law enforcement's aware, WHOW or Willow Tree, or if there's some professional advocate that needs to be involved to help this family through this situation. I'm sure there's different parts and pieces that would affect social media, who you block, changing accounts, deleting accounts, that kind of thing. I'm sure the other two could speak a little bit better about that. But a lot of it is kind of controlling the information you share and with whom you share that information, and kind of being diligent about where you are, who you're with, and who knows your situation, so that you surround yourself with protection.
Officer Bross, anything you want to add to that component of the conversation about breaking free, avoiding the situation altogether, anything of that nature?
Just don't be afraid to like say anything.
Mhm.
You're not at fault. Just, that's the biggest thing is like everybody, especially younger teens, they kind of internalize everything, blame everything on themselves. Just don't be afraid and, seek help to where, wherever that may be, but, you're not at fault is the biggest thing.
Right. Andrea, do you find victims of domestic violence later in life, were they a victim of domestic violence as a child? Is that like a cyclical thing for them? Yeah, I know it is somewhat for abusers. How about that aspect of it?
Yeah, it is also for people who are abused, not across the board. Anyone can become the victim of domestic violence. It's the power that abusers have. It's not the fault of anyone who's being abused. However, we do know that oftentimes people who were victims as children go on to become victims as adults. There's many reasons why that is the case. One theory is because it's what we feel comfortable in, whether it's right or wrong. It's what we grew up with. It's what we know to be normal.
We're kind of conditioned into
Absolutely.
that.
It's personality traits that we're familiar with. It's a common environment of how we grew up. There's so many reasons on why it can be, but yes, we do often see that people who are abused as children go on to be abused as adults.
And a lot of times for the abuser, that behavior is learned, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. How about that aspect of it, Andrea? And abusers as young kids, do they become abusers as adults?
If you are an abuser, if you are abused as a child, it does not mean you will become an abuser.
Okay.
If you are an abuser as a child, it does not mean you will become an adult abuser. However, you are much more likely.
I see.
There are absolute indicators early on that can be a showcase to what's to come.
Sure. Very good. Well, I'll tell you what, ladies, let's wrap it up. Jill, remind us how folks learn more about Willow Tree Missions and how they can follow you, say, on social media, things like that.
Sure. We're at Facebook at Willow Tree Missions and on the web at willowtreemissions.org. For services, you can call us 217-631-1018. And I'd also like to plug in loveisrespect.org, specifically for teens and parents to do their own research and follow up on teen dating.
Fabulous. Andrea, did you want to put info about Dove out there for us?
We're, like I said, we're available in Decatur, Shelby, DeWitt, Piatt, and Moultrie counties. In Piatt County, my office is located at 100 West Washington Street, directly across the street from the courthouse. And we can be reached by phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 762-2122. Or during regular business hours at 762-2123.
Fabulous. Ladies, great conversation. Thanks for doing this with us. It was really good to have all of you in studio with us today. Again, Deputy Lindsey Bross, Piatt County Sheriff's Office, Andrea Kocher, Dove, and Jill Maxey, Executive Director of Willow Tree Missions in Piatt County. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton.
WHOW.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM, W222 BG Clinton, 106.